Hi guys, it's me Liz with 143 Handmade and another installment in my crazy ass quilt, Crumb Quilt Adventure. This is block 16 and 17, so we're over halfway done. I owe you a great big apology because block 16 is finished. I thought I was recording, wasn't. Just one of those things that happens, right? So here's block 16. It's done with just those little tiny pieces, you know, all the pieces, and they're just laid on top of there, and then I just did the matchsticks quilting over the top of it. And I might go back and add a few more lines here and there on this one too. But here is the concept. I think you guys will be able to see me well enough. My Lady Lovely Lashes is making an appearance. So this should be interesting. Let me see if I can convince her to lay somewhere else. There we go. Okay. So in order to do these blocks, all I've done is take it all, you know, all my pieces. Oh, there's Inkadoo. Keep going, Inkadoo. There we go. All I've done is taken all those little pieces and just laid them on top of each other, all over the place on this thing, on the liner fabric, and they are fairly overlapped, quite. You know, you want a good ½ inch overlap in order to make sure that you know you catch everything that you need to. There's no exposed liner fabric, unless you want your liner fabric exposed. You know, that's totally personal preference, just like all of this. So let's see, get this other corner I gotta cover back up. Let's see, let's stick that underneath there. And I really like to play with the layers, you know, and get things where it's not just building from, you know, this piece looks kind of buried. I didn't leave any of the edges exposed. Not my favorite look, but with this one, because of what it's on, I kind of feel like that's the better option. So that's what I'm gonna do. And as you're doing all this arranging, you know, you're gonna come across spots that, you know, you thought you had figured out, and then you gotta undo, and, you know, you just gotta roll with it. This is not a precise block by any means. None of what I do is. I'm a very messy sewist. You know, if that's not your style, then you're probably not going to find a lot of value here, unless you just want to watch me, you know, play. And so what I did is, after I got it laid out like this, is I just took some paper tape. These are the pieces I already used, but they still have plenty of tacky on them. And I just carefully, I decided where I wanted my stitch line to be, and so just laid this right along the edge. Like so. Okay. And then far enough over that it was, you know, worth it, so I could get a couple rows of stitching in, but not so far as gonna have pieces falling apart. I'm doing this instead of pinning. I should have been a little more careful with my tape. See that? Might be easier just to get fresh tape out. But this seems to be working. Laying on there like so will work. And you're gonna have stuff flipping and flopping, and, you know, this is just how I decided to do it. You could, of course, use a million pins. You could, let's see, what else could you use? Probably that spray basting stuff would be great for this, probably. I don't know, I've never actually used it with the cats in the house. I just feel nervous whenever I'm spraying anything like that. So I just don't. There we go. That last piece got just a little too weird, so I'm going to go ahead and just rip off a new piece. There we go. And then I'm going to come back around and tuck under the camera. Okay. Block 16 to the side. Now I'm not sewing on the tape, I'm sewing next to the tape. So, and then just straight stitch down. I have it set on a fairly high speed so that way I just can get it done. But for this first strip or two, that was held really well. But I think I'm going to go ahead and slow down a bit. So that way if I need to stop and readjust any layers, I have a second to do so. You do want to kind of pull the fabric. Yeah, see right there, I needed to stop and those to lay properly. You kind of want to pull the fabric to the side so that way the foundation fabric is nice and flat. But other than that, I am not worrying about it. You know, any little puckers or anything like that. Yeah, see this piece, this area got a little weird. Not being fully pinned or anything like that. There we go. Let it lay down again. And again, I really like texture in my blankets. So any kind of like little nips and tucks and things like that that might occur, really, they don't bother me in the way that they would bother somebody else, or that they would bother me if I was trying to do a precision pieced, you know, quilt top. This is my messy fun time, you know, where I can just be and explore and not worry about getting it perfect or anything like that. I am making sure to get that underlayer, the foundation fabric, completely covered by at least one layer, sometimes multiple layers, just because that really, you know, that or at least, yeah, by at least one layer. But sometimes it ends up being like 3 or 4 layers by the time I'm done, and I may end up needing to go back. Yeah, see, this stuff all shifted, so I'll probably need to go back and add a little piece on top. I'm not that concerned with that. That just gives me another spot that I can use one of these teeny tiny pieces, you know, that would otherwise be garbage. So, way down. You know, this is by no means, you know, perfect. There's, you know, this is just what I did. This was an idea I had to use up these scraps, and we'll see. You know, it's an experiment. I'll see how I like it, see how well it works. You know, I can already tell that there are, you know, going to be a lot of precision quilters out there that would not be able to do this, would not like it, would not enjoy it in any way, shape, or form. Maybe even consider this a waste of fabric. That's fine. You know, we each have our preferences. Okay, and this fabric shifted quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and release this tape from the foundation and just kind of relay it down. And it should, yeah, that should allow most of it to just relax on out. Not be a problem. And now I'm gonna zip down here, and then after I get a fair amount of stitching done in between each of the rows of tape, then I will very carefully take the tape off and do even more rows of stitching. This does use up a fair amount of thread, so if you have a thread that you really enjoy working with, this would be a great place to use it. Or if you maybe have some thread that's maybe not as strong, this might be a good place to use it. I don't know about that. It's just a guess, because there's so much of it, you know, there's so much stitching lines, so close together, so many, yeah. I'm not spitting that out correctly, but you know what I'm saying. I think that the weaker thread might be supported enough. I don't know about that though. Just a guess. So this is kind of just a spin on crumb quilting too. This is very similar to the concept of crumb quilting. You know, raw edge crumb quilting, just without with a foundation, with a foundation piece to give you a size, to give you something to stitch it to. Some people do a similar thing with Solvay, I think is the name of the product. I don't know, I've never actually used it, but it looks like, almost looks like clear, like cling wrap or saran wrap or press and seal or whatever you want to call it, like that kind of a thing. And then but it just dissolves in water. Never actually, like I said, I've never actually used it, but I have seen a similar technique to this with a product like that in videos. So this is just my take on it. I don't have any Solvay. I don't have the money to buy Solvay. Even if I did have money to spend on crafting stuff, that's not what I would purchase right now. I have other things that are far more important to my crafting than that would be. Okay, so now that I have a good amount of stitching, I'm still going to go back and do more even in that space, but I have enough stitching on there that I'm going to go ahead and remove a piece of tape. And I just say a piece of tape because it gets even floppier, you know, and the layers that you expose, you know, become mobile. And just kind of go right in the middle of where that was. Just kind of just start and get everything tacked down. Again, this is just an experiment for me. I don't really know for sure there's like a proper way to do matchbook or matchstick quilting, because I believe that's what this is called. It's just a bunch of straight lines, straightish lines. I'm not, like I said, I am a messy sewist. I am not a precision person, so these are not at all straight lines. I'm not trying to get them to be straight lines. Some of them will cross over each other. I'm totally fine with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back, and after I take off a piece of tape, I like to run a good 3 lines of stitching up and down, or not up and down, well, you know what I mean, across there, whichever way works for holding it. And then, so that's 2, I got 1 more, and then I'll move on to the next piece of taped area. The next section of tape, however you want to word that. There we go, almost done. This 3rd area. For that 3rd line of stitching to hold that in place, and then we do it again. Just very carefully take the tape off. And like I said, I'm sure that there's some seamstress out there totally, you know, ashamed of me right now, wondering who in the world taught me to sew. Well, you know, the bottom line is that my mom and my grandma, as awesome as they were, I didn't want to learn, so I didn't. And that's all there is to that. It's not their fault. Most of what I've learned as far as sewing goes has just been through trial and error since I bought a sewing machine a few years ago. Well, actually, more than a few years ago now, but I really haven't been like consistently sewing my whole life or anything. I mean, I grew up watching it, but like I said, I just wasn't interested. And, you know, as any teacher will tell you, mom, teacher, you know, parent of any kind, teacher of any kind will tell you, if a kid is absolutely not interested, it is a very difficult thing to teach that child, whatever it is. And so, I did not, like I said, I did not learn to sew as a child, even though it was, you know, prevalent in my world, to say the least. They did try. I got my thumb caught up in my grandma's sewing machine, and she stopped trying at that point. So here we go. Last one. Oh, okay. My bobbin's running out, but I still have enough to get through to the end of here. Yep, just enough. Okay. Like I said, this does use up quite a bit of thread. I'm gonna grab a bobbin. Thankfully, I have a bunch pre-wound over here. And because it doesn't matter, the back of this is not going to be seen, I'm going to go ahead and use this orange color that I'm just not really, orange goldy color that I'm just not a huge fan of. As most of you know, my older subscribers, the people who've been around for a minute, most of my, or a good chunk of my craft supplies come from my mother's stash when she passed away. The kitty. Uh-oh. So sorry about that. I have a kitty playing with the empty bobbin behind me. Okay. So, but yeah, a good chunk of my stash has come from estates. My mom's, my husband's grandmother, various crafters, the other aunts, you know, just all kinds of different people. And so I have a lot of supplies that I did not purchase, you know, and that's a blessing, and it's great and all, but at the same time you do end up with colors and things that you just, you know, you didn't buy. And so, yeah, so I'm going to need to cover up a spot there, but before I do so, I'm going to go ahead and run the center. A stitch to right down the center of this area to anchor down all of these pieces that are here. And then I will grab another little piece to anchor oops. Got a little rambunctious there. Okay. Okay. So just grab some more little pieces. So you don't really want to put that there because I have that burgundy right there. Kind of a big piece. It's plain white. I know I'm being all picky. Let's see. Okay, I can lay that in like so. It's going to go over that one. There we go. Like that one, and then I have this hole here. Some kind of piece. Here we go. Because that's kind of lifted up anyways, I'm going to go ahead and tuck this under. There. So, you can probably hear my kitties playing. You may be able to see Inky playing a little bit in the background there. That is my son's cat, Inky Dinky Doo. So there we go, that's how you patch the holes. And now it's just a matter of running it through to your heart's content of density of stitches that makes you feel like your little pieces are secured. Because, you know, there's not a rule there, so to speak. Okay, I have another little hole right here. Things shifted on me quite a bit on this one. I'm go ahead and tuck that under there because I can. I don't know, it's kind of a big piece right there for that little hole. There we go. Okay. But again, as far as the layout goes, it has nothing to do with what looked good together. This was all about what fit where, what would take up the space. And, you know, that's what was being the deciding factors. I mean, of course, I'm human and I'm an artist, so of course, you know, I'm going to, you know, naturally consider the composition to some degree, but it is something that you can give yourself permission to ignore in this case. And I think that it's great if you do. If you give yourself that freedom, it's very cathartic. It's you know, it's good therapy for your brain, good exercise for your brain to think in that in another way. So. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this off of the edges. And as you can see, I need to obviously do some stitching here on the edges because I have pieces that aren't even, you know, that have fallen off of my hand and I've been attached. So. And then, oops, one piece completely fall all the way to the ground. So, I can only hold up so much, so I'm going to go ahead and just start with this. I'm just going to stitch down. Down. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Oh, my tape ripped. There we go. I think this side's a little more secured. Yeah, just because of the way that the pieces were. But I'm going to go ahead and run a tack stitch. Well, I'm calling it a tack stitch, but it's really no different. I'm just, you know, running the machine down this edge. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to flip it over and double check where my mine is, and because I have bright orange thread in, running around like this doing my stitch right along that black line, that will, you know, it'll really pop on the other side, telling me where I need to reinforce my stitching and where I can just let it go. do I need to fill in with any little pieces anywhere? All that stuff. So, thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome, welcome. Please subscribe. This is, again, block 16 and 17 of my craziest quilt. It will be a 30 block quilt, and I'm trying to show as much of it as I possibly can on camera. Like I said, I apologize. I messed up on the last block. That was just, you know, plain old human error. But, my intention is to fully, you know, have you guys see as much of it as humanly possible, as much of the process. And see, when I did that, this got weird. So I'm just going to lay it down and run another stitch and see how I like that. Yeah, I think that'll work. But I need quite a few more runs running through here of stitching. I think a good general rule is that you don't want your stitching, you know, you want your stitching anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to no more than, I would say, 1/2 inch apart with this size scrap. Again, if you're using bigger pieces, then you just have to pay attention to where your edges are and your overlap and things like that. So, and I like to go ahead and squash the extra under now that the tape's gone, and do some stitches, do some stitch lines in the opposite direction, because it pulls the fabric differently, you know, when you run it through the machine the different ways. So I don't do that with the tape on it so much because it just gets bunchy and sticky, and I don't want to risk running over the tape with the needle. But there we go. Just a few more stitch lines, I think, here and there. But you guys get the gist. So thank you so much for joining and liking and subscribing and all your awesome comments and encouragement and support. Go ahead and check out all my links below if you're trying to find me elsewhere, trying to find various ways to support me, you know, give me a tip or anything like that. Anything available at the time will be in the description box below, you know, because just because I'm putting this out, you know, in 2023 doesn't mean that's when you're going to find it and watch it. So I don't want to say, you know, oh, well, you know, do this, you'll find me here. Just all of that, whatever's current will be below. And thank you so much. Again, I'll hold up blocks. So here's block 17 and block 16, just because that's the order I made them in, not because they are going to be used in any kind of patterning, you know, setup in chronological order or anything, like numerical order, not chronological. I knew what I was trying to say. But thank you so much for joining. I greatly appreciate it.